So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None, so the motion passed. As an introduction to our hearing, the Historic Preservation Commission is a public commission appointed by the City of Newburn's Board of Aldermen. It is responsible for preserving and safeguarding Newburn's locally designated historic districts, downtown, and riverside, based on U.S. Department of Interior standards, state statutes, city ordinances, and Newburn's historic guidelines. Two of the major tasks of the HPC include approving applications for a certificate of appropriateness and preventing demolition of historic structures due to neglect. The HPC holds a quasi-judicial hearing on an application for a certificate of appropriateness. The Commission hears sworn testimony and evidence provided by the applicant, by parties who receive notice of the hearing, and by others who can justify that they have relevant evidence and are directly affected by the application. The Commission cannot consider comments based on personal likes or dislikes, hearsay, or personal opinion that cannot be directly related to a specific historic guideline. Likewise, commissioners shall refrain from stating personal opinion, personal likes or dislikes, or hearsay during a hearing. The Commission's decisions on an application is based solely on testimony and evidence presented at a hearing that directly relates to the historic guidelines. Sir, can you swear in those who wish to speak this evening?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're going to speak this evening on any of the items, we'll have to swear you in. You'll just stand in place and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth to the best of your knowledge? Okay, now please sign up here on the swearing sheet. So you know who you are, who just swore himself in.
Matt, do these two new people need to be sworn in?
I informed them that them, or I think that's up to swear them.
Where's where I'm in?
Or we can swear them in now if you prefer.
Just go ahead and let them sign so we get everybody signed.
All right, so if I heard you or both of you are going to speak during your items, please stand up. Yep, and then raise your right hand. And you swear to tell the truth to the best of your knowledge? Yes, okay, I do. I do. All right. So then sign me. Thank you.
Having sworn in all of those who are present at this time, we will proceed with a summary of how we will conduct a hearing on a COA application. The HPC administrator provides an overview of the application. The applicant or their representative presents the application. Proponents and opponents who receive notice of the hearing can present evidence. Rebuttal is allowed by the applicant and by proponents and opponents who receive notice. Others who can justify that they have relevant information and will be clearly affected can present evidence. The HPC administrator presents the staff's findings and their recommendations. The applicant or their representative has an opportunity to make a final comments on their application. Commissioners discuss the evidence and may ask for clarification from the applicants or their representative. The chairman calls for a motion to approve or deny the application with stated finding of fact. The motion is discussed by the commission. The chairman calls for a vote on the motion by the commission. The COA can be approved with conditions, or denied. So let us proceed with this process and have the first applicant, who is 612 New Street.
And I'll start then. You can stand if you want. Okay, so the first application is 612 New Street, as you just stated. This is the application. Get a little smaller here. And you can see they filled out all the areas on the application, signed it, and dated at the bottom. They also have an attachment which goes into further detail. And so this actually summarizes it pretty well here. They have a shed that they're proposing, a deck. They propose to screen in the existing side porch, and then railings on the front porch. So this is their drawing for the site. The house is in the bottom of the map at the bottom. Proposed shed is in the middle of the drawing in red. And you can't see the porch will be added at the back of the house. And this is a diagram or illustration of the shed. And it will be a different color, but and then this is also a small picture of the front of their house, so, or the front door, which represents the color that they want to make the shed. Here are specifications for the shed. Shed is essentially 10 foot by 9 foot with a peak height of 9'10". There's double doors. There is no particular foundation on this. It sits on the ground, I guess, or at least so presented. And then the deck this is actually a very nice representation, rendering or simulation of what the deck will look like. Currently, this area is nothing but grass, and so now they have shown here how the deck will look. Just a simple couple inches off the ground, platform, a couple inches off the ground, entering from the existing side porch. The side porch itself is the one that will be screened in, so there'll be screening, say, here on the left. And then at the end, before you go out to the new deck, in which there will be a screen door as well. And so this is looking from the opposite direction, essentially from the deck back into the porch with the screen on the right, and then there would be, in this very middle area, the screen door. On the front, currently, the front has no railing, and so they're proposing some new railing. And this is a rendering of that kind of idea there. Their proposed railing spindle here. Then this is another shot of the existing condition. And since the design review meeting was suggested to include the railing for the steps, they have also added those as well. So that's another rendering of that. They also provided several examples of other outbuildings in the historic district with the kind of siding that's on the shed. And then in the subsequent time since the design review meeting on the 13th, they added some additional information about the deck. So for example, 4x4 anchored posts, treated 2x8 stringers and girders. Actual decking will be 2x6, also treated, and all materials fastened with 3-inch galvanized ring shank nails. The screen porch and door. The framing for the screen-in porch will be treated 2x4 material with nylon screening and PVC exterior trim. There will be a 36-inch pine screen door, which also uses the nylon screening. Then for the front porch railing, all the materials for the exterior use, including the spindles and handrails, will be treated pine. So then when you're ready, this is the zoning and inspections form, which indicates that the the zoning administrator has said it meets the requirements of the land use ordinance, but the accessory structure must meet rear and side yard setbacks, since those were not indicated on the site plan. And then the chief building inspector said it will require a building permit. And then when you're ready, we have our recommendations.
Okay. Are there any conflicts of interest on the commissioners? Yes, ma'am.
This house is across the street from my house on New Street.
All right.
I would like to be
So can I have a motion to recruit our comrade here?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. So if you can have a seating out in the audience, and then we will bring you back.
So who did the motion?
Jim.
George or no?
And then James Woods.
James made the second. Any members who have any issues on the application's completeness? Hearing none. If the applicant would like to present their application, if they have anything else they want to say,
They do indeed. We can use this device here if you want to add some additional information.
I just added some additional information like this.
can you speak into the microphone?
This is right here.
Sorry. I added some additional information where the door would be and the screening. So the screening from the bottom half where the spindles are, or I guess they're not spindles, but the posts are, the screen would go interior, and then on the other top it would go exterior per. It seemed like that was what was discussed last meeting, and the door is full wood, and then you can kind of see a little bit, and then the spindles. I tried to adjust them as best I can in the rendering, but it would be 3 inches apart, and then the visual of the spindles on the railing right there.
All right.
Also the shed, we originally already had it planned to be offset. The shed had already originally been planned to be offset from the fence that's back there, just so we had some room behind it, so the workers could build it as well, just not to be flush against the fence.
And there will be cinder blocks underneath the shed to raise it up.
Okay. Anything else? Okay.
I don't think.
So, is there testimony from any notified proponent? Seeing none, is there any opponent who would like to speak? Seeing none. Are there any comments from anyone with relevant evidence and has standing like to speak? Seeing none. Sir, could you give us staff findings and recommendations?
Absolutely. So let's go over to the other one. Here we go. The staff recommendations regarding the application for 612 New Street, also known as the Noven House, which is a contributing resource in the historic district. and it was described in the inventory as built in 1910, 2 stories, 2 bays wide, 5 bays deep, 2 over 2 sash, hip roofed porch with round tapered posts, incised bases, and flared caps. German siding, metal clad gable front roof, and interior chimney in the east roof slope. Sandbeck did not have a description. And then, so the application for 612 New Street is to include new railing on the porch in the primary AVC, screening the existing porch and including a new wood screen door in the secondary AVC, and constructing a new wood deck and an accessory structure in the tertiary AVC. So staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate for this application. Guidelines for accessory structures, 2.6.1 and 2.6.3. Guidelines for modifications, 3.2.1, 3.2.2. Guidelines for walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.4, 4.2.5. Guidelines for windows, doors, and openings, 4.3.2, 4.3.3. Guidelines for entrances, 4.4.4 and 4.4.5. Guidelines for decks and patios, 4.6.2, 3, and 4. For wood, 5.2.1, 5.2.2. For paint, 5.4.1, 2, 3, 4, and 9. So statements of reason based on the information contained in the application. In staff's judgment are: 1, the project is located within the primary, secondary, and tertiary AVCs. The proposed new construction, deck addition, and porch modifications do not conceal, damage, or remove historically significant design components or architectural features. 3, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 4, other than some minor elements that are proposed to be made of post-1910 materials, the detail of ensuring the screening does not obscure the columns and balusters is not clear, and the spacing and location of the front porch balusters are not indicated. The rest of the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So, we've heard some modifications to that. So the staff recommends the commission approve this application to include new railing on the porch in the primary AVC, screening the existing porch and including a new wood screen door in the secondary AVC, and constructing a new wood deck and an accessory structure in the tertiary AVC with conditions that: A, no PVC or other post-1910 materials will be used, and B, ensuring the screening does not obscure the columns, and C, it appears the spacing is compliant, so we'll drop C out. So just A and half of B. Oh, I guess actually thirdly, I'm going to add a new C in there. It became apparent that the foundation for the shed may need to be wrapped in brick.
Be what?
Wrapped in brick?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, do we have any evidence or testimony from any city, state, or government body? Seeing none. Do the applicants have any final comments they'd like to make? Hearing none. Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments they'd like to make at this time?
Matt, what guideline would require wrapping?
Well, we do have for masonry, look at that one. Although, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, we're talking about a shed, which is a new construction, so it may not apply.
I don't think it's going to apply because it is a
Contemporary.
right.
5.1.5.
Right. Provide a veneer of brick, stucco, or other appropriate material over concrete masonry units.
So to expand on that a little bit, I don't know that veneering it with brick is ultimately necessary as long as the concrete masonry units are concealed. So you could put a wood skirt along the bottom edge of the outbuilding, and that would achieve the same purpose, in my opinion. Well, so while I'm talking, I'd like to suggest that you consider keeping the screen on the inside of the columns,
Okay.
because when we talked last, I hadn't realized they're round
Okay.
column posts, and so I think you're going to find you're going to have some additional wood members in there vertically to attach the screen that aren't in your application. And so what I'd suggest is that when you get ready to build that to frame up that part of the porch, that we work into the motion as a condition that they contact staff just to review what you've got in mind before you do it, so that we can make sure that you're not obscuring the columns, which is related to the other comment B, maybe,
Okay.
under the conditions. And so round columns are tricky,
Yeah.
and I think you'll find you'll have a much cleaner look if you keep the screen all in one plane.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments at this point in time? Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we find the application for 612 New Street for a certificate of appropriateness to be not incongruous with Newburn Code of Ordinance, Section 15.4.11 through 15.4.29, and Newburn's historical guidelines based on the following specific guidelines, findings of facts. Applicable guidelines. Guidelines for accessory structures 2.6.1 through 2.6.3. I'm sorry, 2.6.1, 2.6.3. Guidelines for modifications 321 and 322. Guidelines for walls, trim, and ornaments 424, 425. Guidelines for windows, doors, and openings 432, 433. Guidelines for entrances 4.4.4 and 4.4.5. Guidelines for decks and patios 4.6.2 through 4.6.4. Wood 5.2.1 and 5.2.2. And I also would like to add in that wood one 5.1.5.
That'd be for masonry. Right?
Well, yes, so that the trim, the wood trim.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Paint,
So you're going to add the wood trim as a condition?
no, just in the guideline. You know, what Tripp talked about, that they put the wood trim, the skirt.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's under masonry, that's all.
Okay. Paint, 5.4.1, 2, 3, 4, and 9. Findings of facts. The project is located within the primary, secondary, and tertiary AVC. The proposed new constructions, deck, addition, and porch or modifications do not conceal, damage, or remove historical significance, design components, or architectural features. 3, the zoning administrator and the chief building officials have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. 4, other than some minor elements that are proposed to be made of post-1910 materials, the detail in ensuring that the screen does not obstruct the columns and baluster. Well, some of that needs to come out. Does not obstruct the columns and balusters. I'll leave it at that. And it was one more about the setback of the building, making sure that comes to staff.
Do you need to add the second recommendation that was made regarding where the screens get put?
Yes.
And you're still under the foundation for the shed being wrapped in brick? Is that still a condition?
No, that it's going to be that it can be the wood.
It would be other appropriate material, right?
Right, other appropriate material.
The wood trim's going
So are you in the section still on statements of fact? Or are you in the conditions?
I was in findings of fact.
Yeah, okay. So you wanted to modify number 4, findings of fact. How was that again?
Yes, that other than some minor elements that are proposed to be made of post-1910 materials, the details ensuring the screening does not obstruct the columns and balusters, and then the rest of that can come off.
Okay. And then you were adding another finding of fact?
Yes, that he threw me off. Oh, that the setbacks for the building be turned over to staff. And that the rest of the project is not in congruence with the guidelines.
And are you going to add the condition about where the screens are placed? The upper screen and the lower screen? Make that a condition?
I think it was covered under not to obstruct the balusters of columns.
Right.
That will take care
Yeah.
Yes.
of what Tripp is talking about?
Yes.
Well,
Does that take care of that for you?
I would just say that you were making the findings of fact, not necessarily the conditions when you enumerated those. So if you want to have them change what they've already had proposed, then you would have to put that as a condition.
No, I'm not changing anything they're proposed, as long as they don't obstruct the columns and the balusters.
Well, they're currently proposing the screen outside, on the outside of the
And
column.
Tripp said that if they keep it the same.
That's right,
If I
that would-
understood it, if they keep it all the same.
Yeah.
Right, but that would be a condition, that would be a change that we would be requiring from what they're
How about I help by
already
seconding? And then I'd like to suggest we add a condition that staff be contacted to discuss the screen framing before it's installed. Is that an acceptable amendment?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Okay.
Cool. Good.
Are we finished now?
Madam Chair, there's mention of using some PVC in
Right.
their application.
That's
And we need to put that in as a condition, that no PVC or,
You can, if you want.
are you guys planning to use PVC trim or anything?
That's what when we were talking to our contractor, that's what he was suggesting we use. But it could just, but I mean, if you would prefer us to use another material, you can work with that.
Now you messed up my whole motion.
No, maybe another amendment of the motion.
Yeah, I think we need to add that no PVC can be used because PVC is not allowed. I mean, PVC is not a material that was allowed back then.
That's correct.
So-
Didn't exist.
It didn't exist, so you can't.
Okay, we're fine with that.
So that will be added as a condition.
Yeah, I really believe that because it says post-1910 materials, that covers that no PVC can be used.
Yeah.
But if we wanted to say no PVC can be used, we can add that. I don't have a problem with that.
That's up to you.
Why don't we add it, and then we'll be clear?
Okay. We will add no
Be very
PVC
clear.
can be used.
Is there anything else that we need to tweak at this point in time by anyone? Okay? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
That was the
No.
motion.
I second his motion.
Trip seconded motion.
We got a motion, and we have 2 or 3 seconds somewhere. So choose which one you'd like to take. Okay. Any other comments at this point in time? Okay? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. Can I have a call for a motion to issue a COA?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. Thank you very much for taking care of this house.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I'll keep going though. Oh, I have some over here too.
Okay, our next one is 205 King Street.
Can we bring back, Miss Ellen? Can we bring back Miss Ellen, please? Can we bring back Ellen now?
Oh, Ellen, yes, 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 thank you. Do I have a motion to bring back Miss Ellen?
Moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, please return.
Yeah, you'll not get off that easily.
So 205 King Street.
Okay. 205 King Street, here's the application with all the various information and signed and dated.
We can't see this.
He's still on the
We're still on the other.
Oh, I'm sorry. That one there. Let's start over. Okay, here's the application. All the information, signed and dated. And site plan, 205 King Street is just close to East Front Street. And we're talking about this existing gate at the moment will be replaced by a new gate. And this being the front of the house out here. So here we are looking from the front of the driveway through back to the area of concern. These are older photographs of some damage from flooding. So current street view up here in the top right. This driveway is actually split down the middle. You can see a little bit of red on the left and gray on the right. That's where the property line separates the two. So to the left is the subject area of the fence, and to the right is the neighbors not subject to this. So here we have, and then a little bit closer in. And again, this is now the gate we're talking about here, and then a view from the street. Again, front view, direct front on, back of the gate, and then this was their initial image for the proposal of the new gate, although albeit a small scale version or short one. They're proposing a 6-foot high gate. They show some other gates around the area. This is the invoice describing the project. And then here's a more recent depiction of the gate. Kind of, oops, why am I going the wrong way? Kind of as if a simulation again. So the slightly different design now, and showing it in relation to the existing. Also, some of the description of it being black powder coated painted aluminum components with welded joints. Spindles are 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. And then they have the fleur-de-lis on the top. So here's some additional details, photos of the hardware that they're proposing for the gate, and then here's the latch. And then they also submitted examples of other fences around the historic district that have spindles at, or about, I guess, spindles, pickets at somewhat different spacing than what is currently allowed. This one is about 4 inches between them. This one is about 7.5 inches, 7.5 inches between them. That's that same gate. Now, that was at the top, so at the bottom, you can see they have spindles halfway up. And so here the spacing is closer to 3 inches at the bottom. Some other ones, I guess this at the top here, I guess that's the same one again at the top again. Let's see, looking at 9, 6, 7 inches. And this one happens to have fleur-de-lis on it, so the spacing on this, it's about 6.5 inches spacing on those. This one is obviously an older one. You can see the rust here. So let's see what else we have. Then they also provided an email message from the neighbor. That is the neighbor that shares that driveway, and they said, please know that we have no objection to your project. We got notification from planner via USPS today. So then we have the zoning and inspection report. So there, it meets the land use ordinance and it will not require a building permit. And we'd be ready with our recommendation.
Okay. Members, do we have any conflicts of interest on this project? Seeing none. Do we have anyone who has concerns about any issues of completeness of the application? Seeing none. Sir, is there anything else that you'd like to say about the application?
No, I think Matt covered everything.
Okay. Do we have anyone who is a notified proponent that would like to speak? Seeing none. Do we have any opponents? Seeing none. Do we have anyone with any relevant evidence or has standing who would like to speak? Seeing none. Sir, can you give us your findings?
Certainly. So this is the application for 205 King Street for Randall and Joanne Strait. The property is also, the house is known as the Willis Rental House. It is a contributing structure. And the inventory description is that it was built in 1903, 2 stories, 3 bays wide, 1-story porch with sawn brackets, gable, front roof, and interior chimney. Sandbeck did have a description, but it was not really relevant to this particular project. Not mentioning anything about gates or fences or anything like that. So 205 King Street is to include replacing a wood gate with a decorative metal gate in the secondary AVC. Staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate to this application. Guidelines for fences and garden walls, 2.5.1 through 2.5.3. Guidelines for metals, 5.3.1, 2, and 3. And statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the project is located within the secondary AVC. 2, the proposed project does not conceal, damage, or remove historically significant design components or architectural features. 3, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 4, other than the spacing of the pickets, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to include replacing a wood gate with a decorative metal gate in the secondary AVC with the condition that A, the spacing of the pickets be compliant with the guidelines.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any evidence or testimony from any city, state, or government body? Seeing none. Sir, are there any final comments you'd like to make?
Matt and I talked about the spacing on the pickets. The finial at the top is welded to the top of the spindle. So the space between the narrow spindles would be 4 inches, which is by code. If you count the finial, it'll be about 3.5 inches, which is compliant.
At the top, but it's not compliant through the rest of the gate.
I didn't hear that, sir.
So you're talking about the finial is compliant with the 3 inches, but the rest of the spindles are not compliant.
Well, the finial is the widest part, so.
I understand, but the finial is only at the top,
Correct.
and the rest of the gate is not compliant,
The rest is 4 inches.
which is not compliant. Okay.
Now, this 2.5.2 is referring to a fence in the primary AVC, right? And then this fence is not. This gate.
This fence is in the secondary AVC.
Yeah, so the 3 inches doesn't apply. That's my interpretation. You agree with that, Matt?
Well, I guess it's debatable, so you can, I guess, make the case one way or the other.
So I'm going to admit to being slightly confused from design review to tonight. And is the picture what you intend to install? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the final.
So you'll have wood on either side and the metal gate in the middle?
Correct.
Yeah. All right. And just for the record, 4 inches is about 3 inches as far as I'm concerned.
Well, the finials will get too close together.
Well, that's why the importance of about in my thinking in that language. Whereas if you would have proposed 7 inches, I would probably have a different position.
Wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, understood.
And so the gate, as you have in this picture, you're saying is 6 feet tall?
Yes.
And the wood around it then is how tall?
It's in the application, Matt. It's 80-some inches. It's almost 8 feet.
Okay, and is at the top of the crest, you're
That's 6
saying
feet.
at the top of the crest, it's 6 foot tall?
Correct. The gate itself, the highest point would be 6 feet.
At the highest point, okay?
I have a question about that, just because it's come up not with this application, but with other situations. 6 feet as measured from where? Is that from the bottom of the fence, or is that from the driveway? Where is it measured from?
Well, I think because this is a gate, it's going to be measured from the top of the fence down. Top of the gate down. Because if it's a gate, then the bottom of it should not be touching, in my opinion, shouldn't be touching the ground.
Right, so if the gate was elevated 2 or 3 inches above the ground and the fence itself is 6 feet, then this exceeds 6 feet.
Say that sentence again.
Speaking to the
Are
speaker.
we measuring the gate as being 6 feet? Understanding that there'll be a clearance space left at the bottom of the gate so it doesn't rub on the brick. Because if that's the case, then the elevation is above 6 feet.
What you're saying would be true.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's the measurement of the gate itself or if that's the
So
measurement.
what is the measurement? Let's ask. So what is the measurement of the gate? Do we have some specifics? Is the 6 foot from the top of the crest to the very bottom?
Well, you have to have no more than 4 inches space at the bottom. So it could be anywhere from 2 to 3 or 4 inches.
Making
I don't think
it,
it addresses that
So-
in the specs.
So would you object to measuring the gate from the driveway to the top of the crest to be no taller than 6 feet? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, that will take
So-
care of that. Do we have any other questions, any comments at this time? All right, so do we have a motion that someone would like to make?
I move that we find the application for 205 King Street, certificate of appropriateness to be not incongruous with Newburn's Code of Ordinance, section 15411 to 15429, and Newburn's Historic District guidelines, specifically citing guidelines for fences and garden walls, 2.5.1, 2.5.2, 2.5.3, guidelines for metals, 5.3.1, 5.3.2, and 5.3.3. Statement of reasons being that the project is located within a secondary AVC. The design of the gate aligns with the intent of the Historic District guidelines, and that the well, I'm going to just leave it at that for right now, and that otherwise the application is not incongruous with Historic District guidelines. I'm going to change my mind again, and I'm going to add a fourth thing and say that the intent of this motion is that 4 inches of spacing is close enough to about 3 inches to be compliant with our guidelines. And then also that the height of the gate is measured from the surface of the driveway to the top of the crest, and will be no taller than 6 feet.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, the motion passed. Do I have a motion to issue a COA?
So moved.
Do I have a second? We have several to choose from. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All against? Hearing none, you can issue the COA, sir.
Very good.
The next item is 830 Queen Street.
So,
And sir, you'll need to be sworn in.
Right. So you have to, do anyone else want to speak on this?
No, he's the only one.
Well, will you be speaking on this at all? Yeah. Okay. Then you have to raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth to the best of your knowledge? Okay. And then could you please sign your name over there on that sheet of paper?
Okay. Would you tell us about this?
Sure. I had to remove my mask since my mouth kept moving it off from my face and fogging my glasses. All right, so here we have the application, the information supplied, and signature and date. Mr. Hatter, Mr. Darrell Hatter, has been authorized to speak for the owner, Ms. Teresa White Parmley. And this was a sketch that he provided for us regarding the changes to the porch. Of note are, let's see, he uses beadboard for the underside, the ceiling on the porch. The posts will be beveled from above the railing to below the top beam. And the pickets are 3 inches on center. The lattice underneath the deck is shown here with the X's. And let's see, and the wood pilasters are new. Those would be these two back here on the back face of the wall. And so we know what we're talking about here. These are some of the old photographs. So talking about There's currently 4 posts up front, so adding a pilaster back here against the wall on both sides. It turns out these structural members across here are not attached to the building, actually. So they needed to put a pilaster under that end of those. Let's see, so some more older photographs. That we all saw in the design review meeting, but now for the record here, let's make this a little bit smaller. And now this is from 2012. Those were all prior to that. 2012. 2012. And now this past June, things were in quite a bit more disrepair. And finally now in September, it's being repaired. All this new wood here is a replacement in kind, so it's not part of this application. But primarily just the new things. So these 2 pilasters, I believe, are the other 2 posts, do you still have the originals, or are those new?
No, those are new also.
They would be new. So, and then, right, underneath the deck, and then the ceiling, there was no, the ceiling prior to this was particle board, I believe, so replacing that. And then the last item, we don't have photograph, is all the way on the back. Oh wait, maybe I do. There was a piece of plywood where there originally had been some siding. So because we're replacing plywood with siding, even though it matches the other, it has to be part of the application. So this gives you some more images that we can use to discuss if necessary. And then this is our zoning and inspections report, which says that it does meet the requirements of the land use and will require a building permit. And then we're ready for our findings and recommendations.
Are there any conflicts of interest from any commissioners at this time? Are there any issues on completeness of the application? Sir, is there anything else you would like to say about your application?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am, at this time. Is there any testimony from a notified proponent? Seeing none. An opponent? Seeing none. Is there comments from anyone with relevant evidence and has standing? Seeing none. So, sir, if you can continue.
Okay. So these are the recommendations for the project at 830 Queen Street for Teresa White, and I'm sorry I didn't get your Parmley, and Mr. Hatter. The historic property name is Dr. Hunter Fisher's office. It is a contributing resource in the historic district. The National Register inventory description is that it was built around 1890. 1 story, 3 bays wide, 1 bay deep, 2 over 2 sash, shed roofed porch, chamfered posts, 6 panel front door, plain edge siding, corner boards, metal clad gable front roof behind a high false front, boxed eaves. Oldest commercial structure in Newburn's Black Business District. Sandbeck actually has a similar but more detailed description. Small turn-of-the-century office or store structure is distinguished by its charming and unusual false front and prominent cornice. It follows basic gable roof form and has a symmetrical facade consisting of a central door flanked by narrow 4 over 4 sashes, all sheltered by a diminutive shed-roofed front porch supported by 4 chamfered posts. It is sheathed with plain weatherboards and has a simple box cornice. This is probably the oldest surviving commercial structure on this stretch of Queen Street, which once was considered a major part of Newburn's thriving Black Business District. During its heyday between the 1890s and 1930s, this commercial section extended from south of 5 Points up Queen Street to the Frog Pond area. So, implies some significance to the building. 830 Queen Street, the project is to include new wood railing, wood porch ceiling, wood porch lattice skirting, new wood pilasters in the primary AVC, and new wood lap siding in the tertiary AVC. So staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate to this application. The guidelines for modifications, 3.2.1, 2, 3, and 4. For the foundation, it includes an illustration, well, first some out of the narrative. Various historic foundation treatments were constructed between piers, including solid masonry with vent holes, brick lattice or pierced brick, and brick pier with wood lattice infill. And then we have the illustration included. There is no specific guideline that says that, no numbered guideline. Guidelines for walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.1. Guidelines for entrances, 4.4.1, 2, and 4. Guidelines for wood, 5.2.1 and 2. Guidelines for paint, 5.4.1, 2, 3, and 4. Statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the project is located within the primary and tertiary AVCs. 2, the proposed project does not conceal, damage, or remove historically significant design components or architectural features. 3, the zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 4, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to include new wood railing, wood porch ceiling, wood porch lattice skirting, new wood pilasters in the primary AVC, and new wood lap siding in the tertiary AVC.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone who would like to give any testimony from the state, the city, or government body? Hearing none. Sir, are there any final comments you would like to make?
No, ma'am.
Hearing none. Do the members of the commission have any questions or comments you'd like to make at this time?
Matt, can we go back to the pictures, the 2012 pictures? So are those pilasters round or square?
I think they're turned.
Well, they're square with
Huh?
chamfered corners. So chamfered is basically a 45 has been cut off of each of the 4
Okay.
corners. So it gives it essentially 8 faces, 8 flat faces. We can look a little bit at another one, and I'll zoom in. You kind of see it here where it changes from a 4-sided, right here, there's a little bump. And then up, down here at the bottom, at the railing, go a little bit farther down.
I see the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, you can see it then becomes looks a little skinnier because of the chamfered corners.
Okay.
So,
All right.
And we did decide, like you see in that picture, that there was a rail around it.
a single handrail.
Yes. Mhm.
At one, yeah.
Right there. Did we decide that too? So are you going to put these type things back in there?
Yes, ma'am. That's what we wanted to do, build the fence and put it right back and keep it 3 inches on center
Okay.
and lift it 2 inches above the floor
Okay.
and actually that will put everything back. pretty
Back
much.
like it was. Okay. All right.
Only thing we were doing that for safety reasons.
Sure. Any other questions at this time any members have? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we find the application for 830 Queen Street appropriate for a certificate of appropriateness to be in not congruence with Newburn's Code of Ordinance Sections 15411, to 15429 and Newburn's Historical District Guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of facts. Guidelines for modifications 3.2.1 through 3.2.4. Foundations 4.1. Guidelines for walls, trims, and ornaments 4.2.1. Entrances 4.4.1 through 4.4.1, 4.4.2, and 4.4.4. Guidelines for woods 4.2.1 and 2. Guidelines for paint. Guidelines for wood 5.2.1 and 5.2.2. Guidelines for paint 5.4.1, 2, 3, and 4. Statements of findings of fact. The project is located within the primary and tertiary AVCs. 2, the proposed project does not conceal, damage, or remove historical significant design components or architectural features. 3, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed the project and commented accordingly. 4, the project is not in congruence with the guidelines.
Second.
We have a second. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. Can we have a motion to issue a COA?
So moved.
Second.
Having a second. All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, you can issue the COA. And thank you all very much for taking care of this building and putting it back how it belongs. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a great meeting.
We can be more help to you. Just see Matt.
I can't wait till the project's finished.
I know.
Can't wait to see it.
I promise you'll be satisfied.
I bet you can. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, same to you. Okay, we're now down to 613 Pollock Street, Trine Palace. If you can give us information on that.
Certainly.
If you
So
want me to
this
go
is
first.
Do what?
I have to recuse myself. I received a letter.
Okay, so you're going to recuse yourself? Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All of those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none?
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So if you could give us the information on this project.
Okay. So this is the application for 613 Pollock Street, also known as Trident Palace. And lots of information provided here. Signature and date. Also, let's see, where is it? Oh, yes. So Mr. Charles Francis has been, does it say that out there? Oh, yes, there it does up here. Charles Francis has been appointed as the representative for the owners, being the state of California, state of North Carolina.
First say, are you sure? Wow. Where are you?
What state
That's
of
a
mind?
throwback. So,
Well, you need to come back across the country.
25 years. All right. So here we have the plan, site plan for the project.
You can make that a little smaller.
Yeah. There we go. And so on the right side is Metcalf Street. On the top are some the backyards of neighboring properties. On the left here is the main lawn for Trine Palace. The palace itself is located more in this corner here, or the one corner of it is located here.
It's the kitchen wing.
The kitchen wing, and then I guess just more of the facility is down off the bottom of the page. So the application is for this dark gray area here, which includes actually a covered porch-like area here. So it's entirely from the top here all the way down to the bottom where these 4 squares are, is the actual structure. They're located, this portion of the property, the project, the building is aligned with the existing gate that's here. We'll see pictures of that in a minute. And it's between a long row of shrubs, which are next to that gate, and between that row of shrubs and the existing greenhouse, which you'll see here. You all may know the blacksmith shop, which is right here in the corner of the main lawn. So this is a floor plan of the project. So there is actually a handicapped ramp out the back, and then a large main room, and then this is the front porch, so to say. There's also a gradual sloping of the sidewalk up to this end of the porch as well. That starts outside the gate. We'll see that a little bit later too, probably. So these are now elevations of the building. So this first one on the top left would be the elevation that faces the lawn. However, there are shrubs and the gate and shrubs in front of it. So it is somewhat obscured. We'll also see that later as well. This is the end of the back end of the building. And I want to point out that while this looks like a flat facade here, it's not. It is sloping. So let's go back over here. It is sloping like this. Okay, that's that slope right there. So that's one of the problems of elevations, right? So then we move down. So the other end, also sloping, this roof area, but this is now that covered porch area. And these are all supported on brick piers all the way around. Then the other materials that we're looking at here are wood siding and then glass windows at the top up here. And we'll see these in the renderings as well in a minute. So first they provided the view of the existing site, which is basically this flat gray area here. Not quite exactly, but basically. Because there you can see the greenhouse, and then to the right as well a little bit. So that was a picture taken from the gate. So now from inside the gate toward the gate, so you have an idea what that side looks like, and the renderings. Yay, that helps the most. So you can see, as we were talking about, here's the gate with the two brick piers of the gate, and then the shrubs on both sides of that gate. There's that walkway that goes around to the front end of the porch. You can see the greenhouse in the background, and then the glass windows at the top of the wood siding wall, infill walls. These end gables are also wood. And the roofing is yet to be
It's asphalt shingle with a base good with an add alternate for standing seam metal roof.
right. So the two possibilities, both of which are allowed. So another view, slightly different angle of the same side. Now this is the back side, the side facing the greenhouse.
You can just barely see the north end as well at the far right.
Right, over here. Oh, and that was it. And so we also added, just for context, the view from the lawn with the blacksmith shop on the left here. And then the building would essentially be behind these shrubs, rising above here, above the shrubs, as we saw in the rendering. And I guess that was just a close-up of that. So then the zoning, that it does meet the land use ordinance, and for building permit, it will not require a building permit from the city of Newburn. A permit is needed from the state construction office, being a state project. And then otherwise, we're ready with our recommendations.
Okay. Do we have any conflicts of interest among the commissioners? Seeing none, do we have any issues on the completeness of the application? Sir, is there anything else you'd like to say at this time?
I think Matt pretty well covered it.
Okay. Do we have any testimony from any notified proponents? Opponents? Seeing none of either. Do we have any comments from anyone with relevant evidence and has standing? Seeing none. Sir, if you'd like to give us your findings.
Certainly. So this is an application for the state of North Carolina, as represented by Mr. Charles Francis, for 613 Pollock Street, also known as Tryon Palace. It is a contributing resource in the historic district and is described in the inventory as built 1767 to 1770 and 1952 to 1959. Georgian style brick, Flemish bond, 3 units consisting of a 2.5-story main house and 2 2-story flanking dependencies positioned in advance of the house to create a forecourt and connected to it by curved colonnades. Hipped roofs are slightly concealed behind parapets. In the 1950s, the complex was reconstructed on its 18th century foundations and the original surviving western dependency was restored. And for Sandbeck, there are 3 pages of descriptions, which we were not about to reproduce here. So 613 Pollock Street to include a new accessory structure in the secondary or tertiary AVC. Staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate to this application. Guidelines for accessory structures 2.6.1, guidelines for design principles for especially for new construction 3.1.1, 3.1.5. Guidelines for infill construction 3.4.1, 2, 3, and 4. Guidelines for walls, trim, and ornamentation 4.2.5. Guidelines for roofs 4.5.4. Guidelines for accessibility and life safety 4.7.2, 4.7.3. Guidelines for masonry 5.1.2, 5.1.3. Guidelines for wood 5.2.2. Guidelines for metal 5.3.2, 3, and 4. Guidelines for paint 5.4.2 and 3. Guidelines for contemporary materials 5.5.1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. So statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the project is located within the secondary or tertiary AVCs. 2, the proposed project does not conceal, damage, or remove historically significant design components or architectural features. 3, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 4, except potentially for the optional metal roofing, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. Staff recommends the Commission approve this application to include a new accessory structure in the secondary or tertiary AVC on condition the optional metal roofing is compliant with the guidelines.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any testimony from any city, state, or government body? Seeing none. Sir, is there any final comments you'd like to make?
I don't know of any.
Okay. Members of the Commission, questions, comments that you might have at this point in time?
Is the coloration of the brick on this structure consistent with the rest of the brick in the palace grounds?
It will be to the best of our ability.
Okay. It looked different in the picture.
Finding a brick that matches that today is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
My question is to the administrator, Matt. Number 2 under your statements of reasons, does that really need to be there? Because it's a new construction, right?
Well, yes, I have it in there. It is potential that new construction could, say, remove a piece of a previously existing thing, but no, we could remove that because there is nothing there where they're proposing construction.
And then number 4, except potentially for the optional metal roofing. I mean, if I was to read this, are you telling me that the metal roofing makes it congruence?
So, metal roofing can be congruous or, standing seam metal roofing, even as he purported or stated, can sometimes be compliant and sometimes be non-compliant. As you know, it needs to have, there's certain characteristics that we need to have. So just simply stating metal roofing would be okay is not necessarily the case.
Okay.
That's all. That's why I added the condition that if it is done, that it be compliant.
Okay.
So I would suggest that we pick one of the 2 materials, probably the asphalt shingles, just as a base assumption. And if it turns out we're fortunate enough that our money goes a lot further than we think, perhaps Charles could come back to staff and seek guidance on what he would need to do to bring the COA into alignment with the change.
I've already got a specification I can give them that. So.
Yeah. If Charles's work ends up like my work, he's going to be having asphalt shingles on there because he's going to run out of money.
That's right.
So does the present application call for the asphalt shingles?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's the primary proposal.
That's the proposal right now, is it not? Yeah.
Well, and see, the thing is, with the option of changing it over to metal, standing settle.
And I'm not suggesting there's a problem changing it later. It's just we don't do well with choices, and if we stipulate the lower common denominator, then we can always upgrade later.
Okay. So we're going to stick right now with the asphalt shingle.
That's what I would suggest.
Okay. So do we need to make that as a recommendation for approval, or is that covered enough in what you've got now?
No, so suppose it's approved tonight with asphalt shingles, and somewhere down the road, before they construct it, they discover that they can actually change anything on the project. They would first have to consult with me to see if it's significant enough to bring it to your attention, or if it's something that can just be handled somewhat like a minor.
So the way that it's written, that the application's written now, that's what's going to happen?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, is everybody clear on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions at this point?
Yes. Because of the shrubbery barrier and it's in the secondary area, will it be visible from the front, from the street, the main street?
Not only does it have a greenhouse between it and the street, it has about a 7 or 8 foot high wall. Mm-hmm. So people walking along the western side of Metcalf Street would not even know it's there. Christine might see it out of her bedroom window.
Okay.
Any other questions at this time? Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we find an application for a certificate of appropriateness for 613 Pollock Street to be not incongruous with Newburn's Code of Ordinances, sections 15-411 to 15-429, and Newburn's Historic District guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Applicable guidelines: guidelines for accessory structures 2.6.1, guidelines for design principles 3.1.1 and 3.1.5, guidelines for infill construction 3.4.1, .2, .3, and .4, guidelines for walls, trims, and ornamentation 4.2.5, guidelines for roofs 4.5.4, guidelines for accessibility and life safety 4.7.2 and .3, guidelines for masonry 5.1, .2, and .3, guidelines for wood 5.2.2, guidelines for metals 5.3.2, .3, and .4, Guidelines for paint, 5.4.2 and .3. Guidelines for contemporary materials, 5.5.1, .2, .3, .5, and .6. Findings of fact. Project is located within the secondary or tertiary AVCs. 2, the proposed project does not conceal, damage, or remove historically significant design components or architectural features. 3, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. 4, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, it will pass. Is there a motion for an issue of a COA?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All of those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, we can issue the COA for this application.
Yep. Good
Thank
to see
you.
Madam Chair, I move that our commissioner be allowed to rejoin us.
All of those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No one's opposed. You can come back. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Charles. Our next one will be 801 East Front Street.
Before Sarah come up, I have a question. Since the next 4 are identical, from what I can read in the paperwork, if we approve one, can we approve all 4 of them at the same time?
No.
Sorry.
Valiant effort, but probably not a good idea.
So I have another question as well, and because it's 801 East Front Street. 801 East Front Street is when you go up into this little development. That's the first lot on the left, right?
Correct.
Now, we have already approved a house to go on that lot previously. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
So that house was moved to another lot,
Yeah, the design.
okay? And so do we need to do something about that we already approved one house for this lot and it got moved somewhere else and it was approved for the new lot?
No,
Is it-
you just treat each one separately. So if approved tonight, they will essentially have 2 designs that they can choose from for this one lot on this corner. Then when you move to the next lot, it's not had a previous approval on it. It's just like a vacant lot like anywhere else, and it just happens to have the same design as the one that was previously approved for this first lot. That's all.
Okay. All right, well, let's look then at the new design for 801 East Front Street. If you could give us some information on that.
Sure. Already page through to show you the corner we're talking about, but let's get back to the beginning again. So this is the application for 801 East Front Street, also known as AKA Lot 9 in River Station. So there's a lot of numbers right in here. And then it's signed and dated. And these are architectural drawings, so they're quite large. So this is the cover sheet for the drawings, and this is basically a rendition of the design for this corner lot. And we are talking about this lot down here in the lower left, along the corner of Queen Street and East Front Street. Do that again. So here they provided some photographs. There's the corner we're talking about, and then some of the other angles looking straight up Queen Street with the lot on the right here. Across the street, across Queen Street, is currently a vacant lot. We have an approved plan for that lot. And then Queens Point is on the left here. This is the, well, let's go to the left here first. There is one house that's already constructed in the development, and this is the front view of that house. This is the side view, and the lot that is under consideration is here on the in almost the middle of the photograph. And so from this view, what we see is the back of that house. And this is the private alleyway that will become subject of interest. And then the entrance into the garage comes off of the alley for that particular house. So here we see the floor plan for the house being proposed here on the corner. And you'll see, among other things, the setback lines, and then the floor plan fits just within the setback lines for the house, and then the garage and its small apron out the back to the alleyway. Oh, and in the front steps, this hatched area represents the front porch, which wraps all the way around the house. And then the front steps also have a walkway out to the existing sidewalk, which isn't shown in the drawing, but does exist. So this gives us a better view of the actual floor plan, should we need it. This is the second floor, should we need it. Also has a balcony there. And this is the roof plan. So, more interestingly are the elevations. So here we see, like I mentioned, the stairway down to the sidewalk at the front door, and the porch that here is the front of the porch. We'll see the side in a minute. And then the upper balcony, also similar size and shape and such. So the materials that we're talking about here are, starting at the bottom, brick piers, infilled with louvered venting, and then we have the handrails, the columns. Columns are these are all now modern materials, including fiberglass columns and hardy board siding. I don't remember what the doors and windows were. Vinyl? No? Yes, vinyl. Then we have standing seam metal roof, compliant standing seam metal roof here on the small roofs. We have some shingle style hardy board in the gables, and the trim is all the Azek. What is that material?
It's recycled plastic bottles.
Jeez.
Composite material that is.
With some wood fiber in it.
Yeah, it's very easy to cut and mold. And
Similar to Trex, I suppose.
Yeah, they're kissing cousins. They're just different chemicals.
Yeah, okay. And then the roofing, which is more prevalent on the sides, is the architectural shingle roofing. So, so now that porch that I was talking about wrapping around, the porch down here on the first floor, and then the balcony, it all wraps around almost entirely, or 2/3 of the length of the side of the house. Then we have a door for the garage on the side, and then the second floor has a chamfered cornered addition or projection out the back, but we still have some metal roofing on that as well. Let's see. Going then to the other side, which is then will be facing the neighbor, not the street. So in this case, not as much architectural flourish on this side, and pretty much the materials I've been discussing before. That should be relatively clear there. And then the back, with the garage door, a small pent roof on the back over the garage, and then this is that chamfered extension on the second floor. We have the metal roofing on top of that, and a variation of the siding with the shingle siding at the very top and the gable on the back end. Here are the details of the railing, showing the railing is centered between the top rail and the bottom rail. And then some details about the window. There was a change at the last minute to change the trim for these windows to be these crown tops to the windows, and also an apron underneath the windowsill on this particular design. Skipping all the interior things, so now we have the authorization for Ms. Afflerbach to represent the owners right here. And then the zoning and building inspectors that it does meet the land use ordinance and it will require a building permit, of course. And then otherwise we're ready with our recommendations.
Okay, are there any conflicts of interest on board members? Does anyone have any concern about the completeness of the application? Hearing none. Ma'am, would you like to add anything else at this time?
No,
Okay. Do I hear from the two people that we have left, are either of you an opponent of this? A proponent of this? We don't have either one. Or do you have any relevant evidence or standing that you'd like to present? We don't have any of that. So, sir, if you would give us your complete outcome.
As soon as I can get it large enough to read. All right. So this is the recommendations for 801 East Front Street. It's a vacant lot, has no historic significance as a vacant lot. And the project is to include construction of a new infill house. So staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate to this application. For development pattern 2.1.1 through 2.1.3, design principles 3.1.1 through 5, infill construction 3.4.1 through 3.4.4, foundations 4.1.3, 4.1.4, walls, trim, and ornamentation 4.2.4, windows, doors, and openings 4.3.3, entrances 4.4.4, roofs 4.5.4, decks and patios 4.6.2, masonry 5.1.3, 5, and 6, metals 5.3.3, 5.3.4, paint 5.4.2, 3, 4, and 6. So statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are the project is located within the primary, secondary, and tertiary AVCs. 2, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 3, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application for construction of a new infill house.
Thank you, sir. Any testimony from any state, city, or government person? Seeing none. Ma'am, any further comments from you? She has none. Members of our commission, do you have questions, comments you'd like to make at this point in time?
Sarah, I know you've told us in the past, but tell us again about the floodplain and the height of the foundation. And
It's shown on the elevation. I show the mean sea level at 0. They're all slightly different. I don't know if you can scroll down to that. I think the grade on this one is about 6 feet above 0. Is that right?
You have about 7 foot 8 inches.
7 foot 8. So we've got the first floor at 12 feet above mean sea level. And that gives us just enough room for, wiring, insulation under the house.
Any other questions or comments from anyone? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we find the application for certificate of appropriateness for 801 East Front Street to be not in congruence with Newburn's Code of Ordinance, sections 15411 through 15429, and Newburn's historical guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Applicable guidelines. Developmental patterns 2.1.1, 2, and 3. Design principles 3.1.1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Infill construction 3.4.1, 2, 3, 4. Foundations 4.1.3 and 4. Walls, trims, and ornaments 4.2.4. Windows, doors, and openings 4.3.3. Entrances 4.4.4. Roofs 4.5.4. Decks and patios 4.6.2. Masonry 5.1.3, 5, and 6. Metals 5.3.3 and 4. Paints 5.4.2, 3, 4, and 6. Findings of fact. The project is located within the primary, secondary, and tertiary AVCs. 2. The zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. 3. That the project is not in congruence with the guidelines.
Second.
That was you, Joe?
Yeah.
Were you going to add something?
No, he just seconded it.
Oh, okay, I thought he was going to add something. Okay, we've had a second. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, the motion passed. Do we have a motion to issue a COA?
So moved. Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, we can issue a COA for 801 East Front Street. Welcome. So now can we do 811 East Front Street? Can you give us information on that, sir?
Yes, so 811 East Front Street, similar application, signature date. This is the design that was previously, similar to the design that was previously approved for the corner lot, for the previous lot that we just looked at. So here you have a rendering, 2-story balcony. 2 stories of porch and balcony. And so we're talking about this lot right here. It is third from the end. So, and what else? That was it on that one. So the photographs, again, giving context. The corner of Queen and East Front. I guess that's the southwest corner. This is the northwest corner where we just talked about with 801. Same here. And here. So those are all the same photographs except for this is a new photograph showing starting farther down East Front and looking back towards the development. You can see that already existing new building there. So that's not it. This is it. This is 811 right here. Again, showing the setback lines and how it fits within the setback lines. While on one side it's quite tight, on the one side there is more room on this side because of the angle of the kind of wedge shape of the lot. And then on the left is the garage entrance with the garage apron, and on the right we have that front porch I was mentioning, and then the steps down to a walkway out to the sidewalk. So, this being the floor plan, or at least half of it. There we go. So, again, you can see the garage on the left, the front porch on the right, and the steps. The second floor balcony And then there is actually a second floor porch out the back as well, or balcony, I guess at that point. We'll see that in a minute. This is the roof plan. And so here we see both the front again that I already described, and then this is now the back with that back balcony porch area out the back. So, and then, so this, because this building will be between two other buildings, there is no architectural flourishes, so to say, on this side. And on this one, we have, similar to the previous design in terms of materials, but there's more of the shingle style here in this gable. And on this one, we actually have hardy board louvers in this gable. This one also has a small shed roof on the front, or pent roof, sorry, on the front with some standing seam metal here as well. Otherwise, the materials are similar. And so go down to the other side. So now this is, again, similar to the previous side, because again, this one, it will be facing another home. And then from the back, from the rear, the garage door, there is no pent roof here in this case. And this is the view of that upper story balcony slash deck. I guess not a deck as much as a porch, because it does have a roof over it. And again, the details for the railing and the windows. In this case, we don't have that kind of cove molding or crown molding, but a flat trim and a flat apron below. As far as the trim. So this is again the authorization for Ms. Afflerbach to represent the owners. And then the zoning and building inspection, same as last time. It does meet the land use ordinance and it will require a building permit. And then our recommendations.
Is there anyone who has a conflict of interest on this project? Seeing none. Is there anyone who has an issue on the completeness of the project? Seeing none. Ma'am, is there anything else you'd like to say? Is there anyone of the two people that we have left that is a proponent, that would like to speak as a proponent of this project? Seeing none. An opponent of this project? Seeing none. Is there anybody who has relevant evidence and has standing that would like to speak? Seeing none. Sir?
Okay. So again, this is now for River Station Development Corporation, represented by Go Architectural Design, for 811 East Front Street. No historic significance to the vacant lot. So the project is to include construction of a new infill house. Staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate to this application. For development pattern 2.1.1 through 3, design principles 3.1.1 through 5, infill construction 3.4.1 through 4, foundations 4.1.3 and 4.1.4, walls, trim, and ornamentation 4.2.4, windows, doors, and openings 4.3.3, entrances 4.4.4, roofs 4.5.4, decks and patios 4.6.2, masonry 5.1.3, 5, and 6, for metals 5.3.3 and 4, for paint 5.4.2, 3, 4, and 6. Statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: the project is located within the primary, secondary, and tertiary AVCs. 2, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 3, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application for construction of a new infill house.
Thank you, sir. Is there Anybody from the state, city, or government who would like to speak? Seeing none. Ma'am, any final comments? Hearing none. Members, questions, comments you'd like to make?
Given the odd shape of the lots and the particular orientation that you put on it, are they going to look like they're all in a row, or are they going to be at odds with one another?
No. They're actually very similar setback to each other. The existing houses there may be slightly farther back on the lot than these ones, but our goal was to make them, line up. And that road curves around a little bit, so, they're not all quite at the same distance from the street, but I think it's natural.
I was thinking about the angle between them. It looked funny in that, the way you've oriented it. I guess they're going to be kind of around a circle. They're going to be at an angle from one another.
Yet another one of the charms of the development pattern.
Yeah.
Right. Well, when the next house goes, when we do lot 15, you're right. The two side walls to each one may not be parallel. That's true. But I don't think that's untypical for downtown. And it'll be a good, they're a pretty good distance apart.
Tell me, how far apart are the houses to each other? Just out of
The
curiosity.
side yard setbacks are 5 feet, and that's typical for downtown.
Right.
So they'll be about 10, 12 feet from each other.
So the one on 15, as you lay it out, what you'd see is kind of consistency in the flow of the three of them together.
We're trying to keep that front facade, parallel or perpendicular to the street.
Yeah.
So, it will be a bit of a wedge shape, in the side yard. But I think that's good. Give it a little bit of yard around it.
And Sarah, how many lots on that one side? I'm trying to figure out where this house is located in connection to the cracker box that's there.
I think there's one lot in between. Their lot, I believe they're lot 12. I don't know if we've got the overall one.
This one here, which, if I make it bigger. Yes, that would be 12 right there.
So when they're constructed, they will, there will be at least a lot in between the houses to start with.
So if the alleyway is private, I'm assuming, Matt, that it will be the homeowners association that decides if people who go down East Front Street can come out on the alleyway, exit on the alleyway.
Yeah, I suppose it's up to them to figure it out.
And how many parking spaces are there off the alleyway? 4?
Well, you mean for the marina? I believe that there's 10 spots up in that corner. Those are not technically there just because the marina hasn't been constructed.
Yeah.
But, I think you're right. The HOA does have some work to do to, I guess, dictate the flow of traffic, which I would assume be up and out, or perhaps closest to Queen Street on the one side and loop all the way around. Maybe in a big circle might be the best way to do it.
Okay, any other questions at this time? Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we find the application for 811 East Front Street to be, for a certificate of appropriateness to be not incongruous with Newburn's Code of Ordinance sections 15.411 through 15.429, and Newburn's Historic District guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Developmental patterns 2.1.1 through 3, design 3.1 through 3.1.1 through 3.1.5, infill 3.4.1 through 4, foundations 4.1.3 and 4, walls, trim and ornamentation 4.2.4, windows 4.3.2, masonry 5.1.4, wood 5.2.2, metal 5.3.3 and 4, paint 5.4.2, 3 and 6. And the findings of fact are that this is a project for the primary, secondary, and tertiary areas on this lot. The chief building inspector and zoning administrator have reviewed the application and made comments, and the application is not incongruous with the guidelines.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any more questions? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. Do I have a motion to issue a COA?
So moved.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, we can issue the COA for 811 East Front Street. You're welcome. So let's go to 815 East Front Street.
Okay, so here's the application, very similar to the last one, last two. Signed and dated. The drawings again. This time we're on a corner again, so we have a slightly different design to this one as well. Now the corner is along the alley.
Okay.
So now, this is the site here behind this green box, essentially. And here's the alley we're talking about. So this grass area right here is where the house will be. Also, right in here, this area here, this is the corner. That's the alley in the foreground. So, and then that's that existing building again. Now the back of it from the other side and the front. So here we have the plan of the house on the site plan. And here we can see that we not only have a front porch, but there's also a side porch. And we'll see that those are both 2 levels. The garage on the left with the apron and the steps down to the sidewalk on the right. Oh, and one thing with regard to the discussion we had last time is, although the side elevation always looks so flat, there are often jogs in the actual surface of the building, so you can even see that down on this one as well. So, all right. And the floor plan here. So this porch is a screened porch on the side. Second floor here shows again a second floor balcony and covered porch. I'm not sure if it's screened or not, but then the second floor balcony on the front as well. And the roof plan. And here we have our elevations. So the left one is the front. So a 2-story porch balcony combination, the front door straight in the front. And then this side is the side adjacent to the neighboring house, future neighboring house. And the materials are the same again, the brick piers, the louvered vents, the hardy board siding, the architectural shingles, the standing metal seam on the porches and the pent roofs, the handrails, the fiberglass columns. And then on the alley side, much much more architectural interest, especially since there is, you can't see it so much on this elevation, but these are this is a balcony and a screened-in porch here, and then an open upper balcony and an open front porch. I guess that's an open upper porch as well. As I see here, the screen, is that the screening, or is that sliding doors in the wall?
That's in the back.
In the wall, yeah. Yeah. So how you get out to the screened-in porch. Okay. And then the rear with the garage door here, we do have a pent roof, and the gable has, again, different shingle patterns on the top and the bottom of the gable. And this, as you can see, is where we have a jog in the design of the building because of the shape of the lot. All right. And again, authorization to represent. And the zoning and building inspections, I can tell you, I can predict there's no problem with the land use ordinance and that it will require a building permit. And then we have our recommendations.
Does anyone have a conflict of interest with this project? Seeing none, does anyone have any issues with the completeness of the application? Seeing none. Ma'am, anything else you'd like to say at this time? Hearing none. Do we have any proponents of the two people that we have left in our audience? Any opponents? Hearing none. Do we have anybody with relevant evidence and has standing that would like to speak? Seeing none. Sir, would you like to carry on?
Sure. So again, it's a project for River Station Development Corporation, represented by Go Architectural Design, for the project at 815 East Front Street. Again, vacant lot with no historic character. So the project is 815 East Front Street to include construction of a new infill house. Staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate to this application. For development pattern, it's 2.1.1 through 3. For design principles, it's 3.1.1 through 5. Infill construction is 3.4.1 through 4. Foundations is 4.1.3 and 4. Walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.4. Windows, doors, and openings, 4.3.3. Entrances, 4.4.4. Roofs, 4.5.4. Decks and patios, 4.6.2. Masonry, 5.1.3, 5, and 6. Metals, 5.3.3 and 4. Paint, 5.4.2, 3, 4, and 6. Statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the project is located within the primary, secondary, and tertiary AVCs. 2, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 3, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application for construction of a new infill house.
Thank you. Anyone that has any testimony from the city, state, or government body? Seeing none. Ma'am, do you have any other comments? Thank you. Members, do you have questions, comments you'd like to make at this point in time?
Sarah, we have not addressed this, but will there be some uniformity in the placement of the HVAC systems? With only 5 feet between the houses, I could see a real problem if they try to put them on the, next to each other.
We've talked to the building inspection department about it, and they can be, they can be in the setback. They're required to be on a platform, and we have generally thought about where they're going to be, but haven't specifically placed them. And in a lot of the units, that there is a jog in the side wall, so there is opportunity to set them, farther back from the front of the house. But to your point, we have not located them specifically, just with the understanding that they will go in the side yard, more than halfway back, more towards the garage side.
Okay.
And they'll be properly screened, is that correct?
We haven't planned for screening at this time. The ones that are currently there don't have screening. They will be on a platform. We've discussed it on the next one that I bring back. I will bring something to address that. We've talked about that in general in terms of trash cans, recycling bins, those kinds of items. But we haven't specifically located them.
I was more concerned about the AVAC and the screening for those things, for those
They're
items.
not required to have screening, as far as my
Yes.
understanding, is it?
Yes, yes.
Yep, they are.
Landscaping or fencing?
Yep.
Doesn't say fencing. Okay.
We talked about that
Unless,
last time.
unless you can't, unless they're behind the building and you can't see them from the street.
But since it's a kind of an open area, that's what I'm a little concerned about.
And when you
Okay.
go to do this, she'll have to bring that back to us, will she not?
Right, landscaping.
So landscaping, and put
Yes,
those up,
but
you'll have to bring back
none
to
of the
us.
landscaping has been addressed on these, but that will absolutely come back.
But these items that's been asked about, you'll have to bring back to us for
Absolutely.
approval.
Yes.
And yes, as he said, it either needs shrubs or some type
Or
of
lattice work or something.
lattice work or something around it.
Yes.
Yep.
And Matt, I'm still not clear on this. Okay, so the garage is a part of the house plan. But do we have a word for what we're calling this garage? It's not separated from the house. Do we have a,
Either it's attached or integral, but the new pattern that we adopted and the changes to the guidelines that we adopted as a committee, as a commission, state that an attached garage is not permitted in the tight weave development pattern. This is not in the tight weave development pattern.
so what did we call it if it's not attached?
Stitch, some kind of stitch.
Well, that's not what Peggy's asking, but narrow stitch is the name of the
narrow
development
stitch,
pattern. but
right.
It's part of the house, I would think. It's just,
It is an attached garage,
Yeah.
but that is allowed within the tight stitch development
So-
pattern that this,
Just to put your minds at rest, I didn't come up with a unique name for a garage in the narrow stitch development
narrow
pattern.
stitch.
You had a really good word for it, Matt. I can't remember what it was.
Maybe integral.
I think
I think
integral
that
is
was
the
it.
term that you used. When we had
Oh,
that
it was
discussion.
integral, wasn't it?
Yes, I believe it was integral.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Was it
I know, well,
integral?
we've used that, or fully engaged, I think might have been floated at one point. Or,
Well, and within the envelope of the house is what we talked about.
I'm thinking of future developments, if we have this again, if we see it again, what to call it.
garage.
inside.
Place to park the car, out of the weather.
Okay, any other comments, any other questions at this time? Okay. Does someone want to make a motion?
Bless you.
Madam Chair, I move that we find the application for 815, application for a certificate of appropriateness for 815 East Front Street to be not incongruous with Newburn's Code of Ordinance, sections 15-411 to 15-429, and Newburn's Historic District guidelines, based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Applicable guidelines, development pattern 2.1.1, 2.1.2, 2.1.3, design principles 3.1.1, .2, .3.4, and .5, infill construction 3.4.1, 3.4.2, 3.4.3, and 3.4.4, foundations 4.1.3 and .4, walls 4.2.4, windows, doors, and openings 4.3.3, entrances 4.4.4, Roofs, 4.5.4. Decks and patios, 4.6.2. Masonry, 5.1.3.5 and .6. Metals, 5.3.3 and 5.3.4. Paint, 5.4.2.3.4 and .6. Findings of fact. 1, the project is located within the primary, secondary, and tertiary AVCs. 2, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. 3, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines.
I second the motion.
All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. Do I have a motion to issue a COA?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I have a second. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed, hearing none, we will issue a COA for 815 East Front Street. You are welcome. So can we hear about 808 East Front Street?
Yes, so here we have the application. Again, very similar. Form is very similar, so we have Sarah's signature and date on it, and now the architectural drawings. So, design's changed a little since the design review meeting. Remember, we had vertical siding, now it's horizontal. But otherwise, we have pretty much the same materials we've been talking about. We'll get to, I guess, more detail on the elevations. So now we're talking about this one here. We're now on the other side of the street, so the front door and the small stoop porch is facing the street, and then the back of the house is facing the alley as normal, and then the river. The open space and then the river, sorry. So that's the lot we were just looking at, previous application up top. And looks like we have the same pictures as the last one. So now we have the plan on the lot. So what is a little bit deceiving is that these two squares here actually are posts that hold up a deck that's above this. So we have the front stoop porch and stairs out to the sidewalk as before. We have a small corner porch, I guess, and then steps down to the back. And then this driveway area is all paved concrete, and there are these two posts that are holding up the thing. And so the garage is actually set back, looks like 10, 15 feet from the back edge of the overhanging porch. And then you can see, I guess, maybe the distance. There's the alley, and then the green space, and then the river. Here we have the plan. Same plan we were just looking at. And you can see it's talking about a covered deck above. So that was the first floor. Second floor here now has most of the living spaces, and then the deck overlooking the river on the back. And now this is the area that's overhanging that the driveway. And then the third floor also has another deck on out the back for it as well. So, again, looking at the front, it's much more narrow, or seems to be more narrow, taller. Shingles in the gable, and all three of the gables facing the street. These are actually brick piers, just not rendered as such. And then, there's an interesting oval window in the very top gable for the attic, or the third floor, I suppose. Now this is the side that would be facing towards Queens Point, or the several lots that are on the Queens Point side of this house. And now you can see for certain the overhang over the driveway, where the garage door would be behind this edge here. The first porch, and then the second porch. And then there's a gable on this side for some windows for that third floor. Okay. And then on the opposite side, same kind of thing. We do have a chimney for the porch and some louvers on the sides of the porches here. And the chimney is covered with the hardy board shingles. This side also has a little bit more bumping in and out, so we have a new metal roof over this bump out area. This is that small first level porch that I mentioned that goes out the back with steps down to the driveway area. And then out the front, you can see we have, again, the steps out to the sidewalk on this side, and the porch covering with the metal roof there. And this side has a gable with a tripartite double hung windows here, and then the shingles. So, and then the back itself. So we, I like the shading, that's good. That helps. Yes, so the porches are prominent on the back here, and we have columns all the way to the top, railings, of course, for the porches, and then in the gable end, there's actually some shingles here that are flush with the apparently flush with the outer edge of the roof, but then the shaded area is actually set back in the 10 to 15 feet that I mentioned earlier. And then also on this side, you can see that small little porch which leads to the back door. And here we have our chimney. So, and all of this is on brick piers that are about 4 feet tall. All right. And then the usual details for the railing. Yes, Sarah may speak. And our zoning and building inspections for 808. For the zoning administrator, he says it does not meet the requirements of the land use ordinance. The proposed height exceeds limits of the residential waterfront overlay district. And the chief building inspector says it will need a building permit. So then we're ready for our recommendations.
Debbie, does anyone have a conflict of interest regarding this project? Does anyone have any concerns over the completeness of the project? Ma'am, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I just want to say, as we talked about in design review, we have the Alderman, Sabrina has requested that planning and zoning review the residential waterfront overlay district, which frankly I've never seen enforced or used, but it goes from above Queens Point all the way down to Union Point Park, from East Front Street to the water. So the lots that we just looked at are all in R6 and can be 50 feet above grade, where the overlay district is 44 feet from mean sea level, which doesn't make any sense at all because, the Federalist houses on East Front are all taller than that, and there are lots of other houses existing, built historically that are taller than that. And so planning and zoning is reviewing that right now, and we anticipate that to be resolved so that zoning issues aren't a part of HPC, but when we go to pull a permit, that issue will be resolved. And we believe that, since this is proposed to be, it's not any taller than Queens Point, it's conforming to the area, that it is an acceptable design.
Okay. Of the two people that we have left, do we have any notified proponents? Opponents? We have none. Do we have anybody with relevant evidence and has standing? It's not you two either. Okay, so sir, if you can carry on.
Certainly. So here's the recommendations for River Station Development Corporation and Go Architectural Design for 808 East Front Street. Again, a vacant lot. And the proposal is to include construction of the new infill house at 811 East Front Street.
But it's still 808.
808.
808.
Oh, you're right. So that's a correction. Sorry. Staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate to this application for the development pattern 2.1.1 through 3, design principles 3.1.1 through 5, infill construction 3.4.1 through 4, foundations 4.1.3 and 4, walls, trim, and ornamentation 4.2.4, windows, doors, and openings 4.3.3, entrances 4.4.4, roofs 4.5.4, decks and patios 4.6.2, masonry 5.1.3, 5 and 6, metals 5.3.3 and 4, paint 5.4.2, 3, 4, and 6, and statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the project is located within the primary, secondary, and tertiary AVCs. The zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 3, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application for construction of a new infill house.
Okay, do we have anybody from any state, city, or government? Seeing none. Ma'am, any comments you'd like to make again? Seeing none. Members of the commission, questions, comments you'd like to make at this time?
So I've been rendered virtually speechless now for 4 applications because I didn't have to ask for a balustrade section.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that said, I finally found my footing and have something to contribute to the conversation. Want to thank you, Sarah, and your client for working with us to help the commission get through our anxiety of dealing with at least what we thought was something that needed to be discussed before we could act on a couple of these applications. I also want to commend you for providing a series of designs that are significantly better than the design that was implemented. I don't know who put that there.
I don't either.
But, it happens. We have a matrix on page 1-15 that goes through the various components for infill construction, and essentially when we evaluate these, almost every section or chapter of our guidelines is affected somehow. And the first grouping is site and setting, and it is undeniably clear to me, and I'm hoping it's undeniably clear to folks who've seen 4 different applications for this development pattern and how they all have a very similar outcome. And that was essentially my statement when we approved one of these designs somewhat earlier. And it's clearly evident that dealing with our cars and garage issues and things like that certainly supports the reason why we've created the narrow stitch development pattern. As far as design attributes, scale, mass, proportion, form, and rhythm, the development pattern creates a form and rhythm, and I think we can kind of really get a clear picture of that again by virtue of seeing 4 of these in a row and how they align in sequence along East Front Street. The scale, as defined in the development pattern, which we hope will soon be approved by the alderman if it hasn't already. We envision relatively tall buildings with narrow fronts and lots of opportunities for porches and decks to take advantage of the view. And we've seen that in all four of these applications. And obviously, all these comments relate to 808 East Front Street specifically. In terms of design components, we've seen articulated masonry foundations, particularly around porches and things, and a nice integration of the wood louvers, in particular between piers, very much in line with the intent of the guidelines. Walls, trim, and ornamentation, we've seen plenty of corner boards and skirt boards and frieze boards and different types of siding applications that replicate or complement what we commonly see in the district. Your windows have a vertical orientation. None of them are horizontal. Again, something in line with what the guidelines ask. And then obviously this is infill construction, and so there's kind of an open season of sorts with the brave new world of contemporary materials, and certainly all the materials you've selected again have been envisioned by the guidelines as they're currently written. But also you've shown over a number of different applications how the same palette of materials can be tweaked to provide a little bit of variety and to attempt to individually distinguish each of the designs from another. So with that said, I'm going to move that we find the application for 808 East Front Street not incongruous with Newburn's Code of Ordinance, Section 15411 to 15429, and Newburn's historic guidelines, specifically citing development pattern guidelines 2.1.1, 2.1.2, 2.1.3, design principles 3.1.1, 3.1.2, 3.1.3, 3.1.4, and 3.1.5, infill construction 3.4.1, 3.4.2, 3.4.3, and 3.4.4, foundations 4.1.3, 4.1.4, walls, trim, and ornamentation 4.2.4, windows, doors, and openings 4.3.3, entrances 4.4.4, roofs 4.5.4, decks and patios 4.6.2, masonry 5.1.3, 5.1.5, and 5.1.6, metals 5.3.3, 5.3.4, paint 5.4.2, 5.4.3, 5.4.4, and 5.4.6. Statements of reason: the project incorporates contemporary materials that are used in traditional ways. Secondly, the palette of materials that you have selected is complementary to those commonly found in the historic district. And then third, the application meets the intent of the narrow stitch development pattern.
Madam Chairman, while I appreciate Tripp's move to clarify this, we were not given a chance to raise a question or to make a comment.
You can raise it after the motion.
Second motion. No, you can.
Before we vote on it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, is this the first house that's going to be on the riverside?
Yes.
It is, but the plan you showed us before had a vertical siding. This is...
It did, and this house has a specific owner attached to it, and so they wanted something a bit different, and I will be honest with you, you may see it come back again. They wanted something a little bit different than the vertical siding. I personally like it. They wanted something a little bit more ornate. So we're trying to work through that And so what I wanted to show was something probably a little bit closer to what it would be, especially with the soffit detail. Before I had an open, open soffit, and so it just maybe a little bit more traditional in look.
Okay, second question. In the drawing of the chimney, does the chimney come all the way to the ground, or does it start? I've never seen a chimney start on the second floor.
It does. It's going to be on the deck on the second floor, and it's not a terribly heavy item. It's the box itself is constructed with wood and plywood, and so we will have it sit on that second floor deck. I had looked at taking it all the way down to the ground, and it's such a large distance below. It looked funny, and I thought, I don't know, in this way, I thought it was an interesting feature. It's a little bit unique, and
Well, in all honesty, it wouldn't hurt my feelings any if you lost the part above the roof.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too. That looks a little
But that's beside
overbearing.
the point.
Well, when I brought it to
My
design
motion
review,
stands as
I
stated.
didn't have the other portion to it, but they wanted that for the specific fireplace that they are wanting.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I mean, to me, it's an attractive elevation. Not having that underneath is a little, different, but.
And is the chimney integrated into the side of the house or set outside of it?
So it's on the porch itself, and on the sides of the porches, since, we're trying to keep the top floor not as a full story side wall, but just a low wall, the sides of the roof come down so that at the very edge of the porch, you're at about 4 feet. And so what we've done is put louvers on the sides of, you can see right there, louvers on the side of that porch, on both sides on the top floor, and then they would be on either side of the chimney, just to give a little privacy, so that your view is directed mainly straight out towards the river.
And what's the material for the chimney?
It'll be a hardy board product.
Will it look like wood or?
It'll be, what we've drawn on there now are shakes. So hardy board, it's a cementitious product, and it comes in lots of different forms and it comes in shakes, and it comes in shingles, and it comes in flat horizontal siding. And
do you anticipate the look of shingles or the look of wood? Something that looks like stone or something that looks like wood?
Something that looks like wood.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the height of the chimney then is going to be on the same level as the gable then, and not higher than the gable?
It's required to be higher than the roof that it is next to there, and we're enough distance away from the other roof. So it's the right height for a chimney.
I see. Okay.
So on one of the sides of your house, do you not have a vertical window somewhere up at the top? Did I see that?
You mean horizontal?
I mean horizontal. Yes, I mean horizontal.
Yes, right there.
No.
No, on the front side.
There's somewhere else.
Oops. This one here.
There it is.
There you go.
That is a bathroom window. Yes. We can turn it into two square windows if you would prefer.
Yeah, you do, because you can't have a vertical window. Yes.
Okay.
So if you
Horizontal.
can we make that as an amendment
Yeah.
to your motion?
I would accept that amendment.
Okay. Make that into two windows there. Okay, do we have any other questions, any other comments?
So I guess that would be a condition.
Yes.
Okay. So we've had a motion. Do we have a second to the motion?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. Do I have a motion for issuing a COA?
Second.
Do we have a second? Somebody down there, choose somebody.
It was James.
Who did the initial one?
James.
Joe.
He did.
Joe.
Yep.
Joe and James.
Okay, so we've had a second. All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, we can issue a COA for this. And I would like to continue my colleagues' appreciation to you for working with us, because I know that at the beginning of this process, you were very, very eager to get this going, and yet we didn't have a good basis to work with you with this particular project, which is very different than a lot of what downtown Newburn is. So I appreciate you giving us time to work through some guidelines that would make this possible and fit with this particular land structure that you have there.
And actually, I really wanted to say a thank you to you all, because you've, been very helpful working with us to develop this new, development pattern, and that's very much appreciated. So thank you.
Sarah, can we expect the construction anytime soon?
Yes. The little house has been through engineering. After tonight, the other three will go through engineering, and they're planning to start as soon as possible. So, yep.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. So we're now to 219 Middle Street. You'd like to tell us about that?
Sure,
I
certainly.
have a conflict with this one.
Oh.
I need to be recused.
Okay. All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed, hearing none, we will let you have a seat in the
Can I
audience.
get a motion in a second first?
I make the motion.
I'll second it.
We're moving right along.
Okay.
This
Please
beat
come
clock
back
you
down.
have us in.
You vote before you have the motion. Okay, so 219 Middle Street, application. And the description is to create a second floor wood outdoor dining deck. Modifications. So, and again, signed by Sarah and dated. And there is a authorization form for her to represent the owners later. Let's see. So these photographs give you an idea of the existing condition. So the deck will end up going in this area here where we have this white roofing. The exit out of the building onto the outdoor deck will be through this doorway. And there is some equipment over here. Then this is, I guess, a detail of that wall back there where you see this vertical black line going up the wall. And then over here, detail of the doorway. You can see there's a drainage construction here in the corner. Then looking out from the doorway, along the right-hand side, where we have that equipment I was pointing at, this curb here becomes a feature that we need to note. Then there is more equipment out there on the roof as well. And then finally, way off to the left, this white line, this white area along the bottom is the edge of the curb, which is showing up here on this drawing. So we're actually looking to the left of this white roof. So this area is 90 degrees turned from the white area and is not a part of this project, but it just shows that area of that portion of the roof. Okay, so we have an existing drawing, a drawing of the existing roof, and so the white area we were talking about is this area here. That doorway is this right here, and the window is there. And these represent some of the pieces of equipment up there, and that area that's not part of the roof, the area is over here. So that's what I was talking about. Turn 90 degrees from this. Also note, this white area goes all the way out to the rear parapet. Okay? I'm not exactly sure what that rectangle is, but... So this is the plan. Oh, I guess that might be the property line out there. So, so this is the proposed deck. And then I guess some of the mechanical units will be consolidated together inside a small enclosure, and who knows, maybe some of them may move over here in order to make way for a pathway and egress, emergency egress out the back and down some steps to the ground. So this plan also shows a new privacy wall, 8-inch CMU with 1-inch brick facing to match existing. The wood deck would be pressure treated, and we have pressure treated wood handrail and a wood staircase. So this is a computer rendering of that design. Make it a little small. Whoops, too many. So here you can see the full project includes also a wood trellis. And so there's your deck, your mechanical enclosure, a door for that, and then the emergency egress down to the wooden stairs out the back. And then this also shows the CMU wall on top of that curb along that side. This is a close-up view and lower down angle. So there could be some lights underneath there. All right. And this is an example of a trellis elsewhere that is similar to the one that is being proposed. Right? Not the furniture, though. This is an example of similar railing. And then another drawing. These are the more or less engineering drawings, construction drawings, to show how the structure would be built on top of the curb, the white curb areas I was talking about, and spanning with beams across the space so that the actual roofing, the roof is, the flat roof is not punctured, I suppose. So there's the form to allow Sarah to speak for the owner. Signed and notarized. And then the zoning and inspection review. So it meets the requirements of the land use ordinance, and it will require a building permit. And then we have our recommendation ready.
Okay, do we have any conflict of interest with this project? Seeing none, is there any issues regarding completeness of the project? Seeing none, would you like to add anything else, ma'am? Of the two people that we have left, are there any proponents of this? I see a thumbs up there.
And you're coming forward.
It's actually a double-edged sword.
Okay. You were notified about this project?
Oh, yes.
Okay, if you give your name and where you live, such that you were notified?
John Watson, myself, and Michael Lee live at 217 Middle Street, 12 inches away from the property.
And you'd like to say?
Since they built this property, they've been an excellent neighbor. We were concerned initially a couple of years ago when they were doing the restaurant about noise issues, et cetera, and Ashley has taken care of any issue. We only had two, and they were early on growing pains, and he was really good about taking care of any issue we had. The only problem I have with this particular element is that privacy wall. Is it possible to take that privacy wall straight out along that wall and not bend it behind it? Our bedroom windows are 56 inches away from that privacy wall. So it's going to totally block us from any view, which is, we don't have a view much anyway, but is it possible to bring that wall straight back instead of bending around behind us? Has that been a consideration?
We have done a design for the entire roof deck, which includes the part perpendicular, and they anticipate going forward with that at some point in time, which I think would necessitate the privacy wall just from a, noise standpoint and things like that. So,
What was the height of that wall? Is it?
It's, to be honest with you, it's a little vague at this point, and their engineer is engineering it. I have put it in there as, the intent is to do a masonry wall that is at the height. I think we've got it just above door height as it comes out and around. So roughly 7 feet tall.
Will there be any potential for anybody to look at over into our bedroom?
No. And that's the whole idea, is to make it like a party wall so that there is privacy, that that no one is, jumping over that side and looking, in the windows. But it's not that portion is not part of the project right now. And we had stairs going off towards the BTM empty, the lot over there, which would kind of integrate that whole area, but they just haven't gone forward with that portion yet. We anticipate they will, but this is just the first step.
But that wall will go up when the deck goes up as well, same time?
We figured it would be the best time to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, opponents, don't see any opponents. Anybody with relevant standing and has any evidence to give? Seeing none. Sir, if you'd like to carry on.
Give me a moment to get down to the document. There we go. Okay. So, these are the recommendations for the project at 219 Middle Street for what? State of North Carolina? No, I don't think so.
You have it right. You just had that up there.
Yeah. So it is for Andrew Schiff and Go Architectural Design. 219 Middle Street is known as the Copland Building, which the Copland Building actually includes the portion where the Watsons also own. So it's been, since the building was built, it's been, I guess, subdivided. But it includes 215 and 217 Middle Street. The building is a contributing resource in the historic district built around 1912. It is described as a tripartite commercial building, which is, it's been subdivided into those 3 parts. It's brick, 2 stories, 8 bays wide, diamond pattern ornamental brickwork, and paneled and corbelled parapets. The Sandbeck also has a description, but there is no relevant information for this application since they only talk about the front facade. 219 Middle Street is, the project is to include a new rooftop dining area, mechanical enclosure, and a wooden exterior egress stairway in the Tertiary AVC. So staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate to this application. The guidelines for utilities, 2.3.1. Guidelines for modifications, 3.2.1, 3.2.2. Guidelines for additions, 3.3.1. Guidelines for entrances, 4.4.4. Guidelines for decks and patios, 4.6.2 and 4.6.3. Guidelines for wood, 5.2.2. Guidelines for paint, 5.4.2, 5.4.3, and 5.4.4. Statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the project is located within the Tertiary AVC. 2, the proposed project does not conceal, damage, or remove historically significant design components or architectural features. 3, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 4, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. Staff recommends the Commission approve this application to include a new rooftop dining area, mechanical enclosure, and a wooden exterior egress stairway in the Tertiary AVC.
Thank you, sir. Is there any evidence or testimony from any state, city, or government body? Seeing none. Ma'am, would you like to make any final comments? Hearing none. Questions by members of the Commission that you'd
Tripp,
like to
you're right.
make?
You're an architect on this committee. Is wall steady, have enough connections to be firm and steady to get?
Well, I think that's what Sarah's engineer's job is. You know.
And that's what we have requested. When they asked us to make that wall part of this application, I said, we have to have this engineered, there needs to be some, design go into it, that's not going to be me.
Yeah.
And
So that wasn't a very good answer. It has to withstand a 135 mile an hour wind. And, the engineer will design it to do so.
yeah.
And the privacy fence will come before us again for these folks that live next door, as far as how high it will be and and they'll have their privacy for their home. Is that right? You're going to come back again about that privacy wall?
If you want us to bring that back, we absolutely can. When it gets designed, what we've shown in the rendering is approximately 8 foot tall door height, roughly, around a portion of that wall. But if you want us to bring back exactly what it will look like and how it will be engineered, we can bring that back.
I would feel more comfortable about that, because you are, with this wall,
Yeah.
you're not intruding, but there's another party involved, and I believe, what's the word I'm looking for? For someone that, I just want to make sure there's harmony between the two places. And I feel like for them, I would like more information about that wall and what your engineers had said, if you would, please.
Okay, absolutely.
My question is, does 219 own all the roof up there?
Yes. In Cypress Hall, when you go straight back towards the kitchen, this portion is kind of above the dining area right before the kitchen, and then the kitchen is towards the back, and then the small enclosed area to the left and where the bathrooms are and everything, that's the white roof that's perpendicular that we're not building on right now.
Yeah, but
But
the way
it
that you
owns,
have the
yes.
wall going, if it's, maybe I'm not understanding how if the wall is going perpendicular to their bedroom window, are you telling me that they own all the roofing for 15, 17, and 19? That the restaurant has all that roofing?
So their bedroom window is roughly here. And there is a 5-foot alleyway right here that you can see that's a space. On the ground level, there's a building that runs here, and then there's a building that runs here. And so you can physically walk back between those buildings. And on the roof, we have...
Was 219 the old arts building?
Yeah. Yes. The old art and supply.
Right. It
Yeah,
used to
and
be
it
the men's.
owns
It was
back. And
yeah.
this.
Okay, I know where you're at. Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is where BTM's lot is, that is on Middle Street. And then BTM itself is located back over here. The beer garden. And so this portion right here, if you're in Cypress Hall, is roughly the dining area in front of the kitchen.
Okay.
Upstairs. And then the kitchen is kind of right here. And that stairway would come out in the back parking lot.
Okay.
And is really only to be used as an emergency exit.
So you're going to have, when you make the rest of the L shape into dining as well, you're going to have to put some wall up there.
And that's why the owner wanted to bring that, tonight, to say that that wall will extend to the edge of the existing building. So that existing building right here, which is the olive oil store, that wall would continue all the way down and end at that olive oil store. But I agree, it's vague right now as to the engineering of what exactly that is going to be. When we designed it, the entire roof, it was incorporated into a bar up there. So I mean, it had stability. But in this application, the intent is to provide privacy, for these folks and that building.
And Tripp, it's ignorance on my part, but if the wall were made out of some type of siding, would it still have to withstand the same pressure?
Yes, ma'am.
So my point is, one way or another, unfortunately, you all are going to have a wall that you're going to have to look at, right?
Well, whether they're thinking a scene, the sky, or something, or something look out our window.
I'm going to let you deal with that with them.
They'll probably do that.
I'm going to let you deal with that.
Talk to them, Sarah.
But if you do that, you're going to have to come back and see us. But anyway, so we're going to take this wall then out of this application.
No, we don't.
Right, because it will intrude on their privacy. So the wall needs to be in there, but when the wall needs to come before us. Actually, I believe that this application should not be approved until we have everything on the wall, because that wall is a significant portion of this for their privacy.
Well, then, we would request that you take the wall out and we'll bring the wall back.
But then we're intruding on their. I see that this project is intruding on their privacy.
They want the wall.
I know they want the wall, but you can't tell us A, what the wall is going to be made of, B, how the wall is going to be designed, because the engineers have to do
It's
that.
concrete masonry and brick masonry, which is what we have in the application.
My main concern is not only privacy, but soundproofing as well, and concrete and masonry, I'll never hear that.
I still think before we approve, if we approve this, a condition has to be put in here that wall comes before staff. That all, it's a water that the specifications for that wall comes before staff.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you.
Okay, so that needs to be, all right, and it needs to be in where the motion maker needs to make sure that's in.
So would you like to make the motion for this application then, and you can put that in there?
Yes, please, James.
I'm really against this application, y'all. I mean,
Thank
okay.
you.
Yes, I will make the motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
You will.
Madam Chair, I move that we find the application for a certificate of appropriateness for 219 Middle Street to be not incongruous with Newburn's Code of Ordinance, section 15411 to 15429, and Newburn's historical district guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of facts. Applicable guidelines. Guidelines for utilities 2.3.1. Guidelines for modifications 2.3.1 and 2. Guidelines for additions 3.31. Guidelines for entrances 4.4.4. Guidelines for decks and patios 4.6.2 and 3. Guidelines for wood 5.2.2. Guidelines for paint 5.4.2, 3, 4. Findings of fact. The project is located within the Tertiary AVC. The proposed project does not conceal, damage, or remove historical significant design components or architectural features. 3, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commended accordingly. 4, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines, and I would like to attach the following conditions: that the wall that is on the proposal, all specifications for that wall come before staff before the COA is issued, and it meets all the necessary requirements.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
We have a second. All of those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. the motion can pass. Do I have a motion to issue a COA?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, we have a second. All of those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Hearing none, we can issue a COA with that condition. You're welcome, thank you. Thank you all for coming. Okay, do I have a motion to return our member to us?
Yes, so
Yes.
moved.
Have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, our member may return.
He's running away.
I'm getting ready to run away, but I'm about frozen.
Well, he'll
It
be
is
back.
cold in here.
I am
It's 70
comfortable.
degrees
Okay.
in here. You have a turtleneck on.
That's saving money.
But it's cotton, it's cotton.
I have on 2 layers and I'm cold.
It's 70
Feels
degrees.
good to me.
Okay, so I'm going to item 4 on the back of our
James, they're
sheet.
sitting up higher than we are.
Y'all, we're on item 4.
Item
Order,
4.
order. Okay, and it's about old business and we have none. General
I
public,
have a question about none, because we still have.
you have a
no-
question about what?
Well, about the word none, because we still have yet to get an answer about how you determine elevation, BTM in particular, their fence. And we've been talking about that for quite a long time, and the problem was, where do you measure from? And if we don't have a definition of that, then my position would be real simple. Anytime somebody brings a fence or a gate before us, I am going to vote against it, because there's no way to measure. So I want a definition of measurement, because BTM put up something to get around the guidelines.
Yeah, they
And
did.
either they're going to be held to task or they're not. If we're not going to enforce that, then let's say it. But if we're going to enforce it, then let's get a definition so that we can do something about it. And that is old business.
That is very old business. Been old
That's
business
part
as
of the
far, as
problem.
long as I've been
Very
on this
old
commission.
business.
It's very old business. So Matt, what do we need to do to find some information about that or make a determination?
Oh, well, it's been brought to the updates committee.
To the update committee?
Yep.
And where's our update? We don't have a report. Do we have a report in here from the update
No,
committee?
because I think they reported at the design review meeting.
Okay. Did they report on this item?
I'm not sure, I
No.
think it was sent to them at the design review meeting.
It was
So-
sent to them.
So I haven't had.
Okay, so at next design review, can we please have a report on that from the update committee?
Right.
Who's head of the update committee?
I think it's me.
It's you too. You see who I'm looking at.
So,
Yep.
all right, how much time you got?
Tonight?
Yep.
As much time as you need.
Well, I mean, it's something we kind of need to talk about, because the
Okay.
reason we don't have a proposal is because there's not a very easy solution.
Okay.
So if we want to have a,
Discussion.
what
So
could
do we-
turn into a very lengthy
I was
conversation,
about
I'm
to
happy
say,
to.
well, can we
to
put this
start
on the
that, but-
agenda for the next design review?
Yes.
And
Okay.
can we have a discussion then?
Absolutely.
We've had more time because we've
Well,
been here a while.
absolutely, and
Well,
I appreciate Dr. Joe's concern.
let me give the committee something to think about. When I got on the committee, the fence had to go up on East Front Street, the house next to the old Pakistan. It's the antique shop. And we told them that they had to measure from the ground, the contours of the ground to get to 6 feet, because what happened was that ground was not even. So maybe I was under the assumption that that was the rule for everyone. You measured from the ground to get your 6 feet.
That's
And
right.
if I'm not mistaken, that's what we told BTM when they got ready to put that gate up.
Yes, we did.
That those specific words was told to them that they had to measure from the ground up for
The
6
problem
feet.
is they brought in truckloads
Yeah,
of
they brought in
topsoil
dirt.
and elevated the level of the ground.
Yeah, that's what
to
they
get
did.
around the guideline.
Yeah,
Good grief.
that is what they
So
did.
my position is the level of the ground is the sidewalk.
Yes, I remember you saying that.
So,
Yes.
so just as an example, there are 2 of the many ways to measure the dimension we're asking about. There are others, believe it or not.
Well, I believe it.
Yeah.
It's not a simple
I
question.
just need to, either we say to those people, fine, it stays, it's
Yeah,
fine,
and-
we don't have any issue, and we can then apply that to anyone else who applies.
Mhm.
You know,
I agree.
or we say, you know, you guys tried to get around the guidelines, and now we're gonna hold your feet to the fire.
And so that's a second issue, you know, in terms of the city attorney's opinion about things.
Well, I mean, right now,
Mhm.
well, we'll save
Yeah.
that for the design.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, that's all part of
Okay.
the same conversation, I think.
Yeah.
I know you won't forget all of this at design review.
No, I won't.
Okay, I'm depending on you to bring this up.
I will.
Do we
And
know?
you to put it on the agenda, and you to have some answer for it.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Okay?
Perfect.
All right, so I got 3 assignments out here.
Do we have a sense of the agenda
And
for
that's
design
November the
review
fo-
at this
that's-
point?
That's November the 4th.
I know of 2 projects
Two.
that are going to be
Okay,
there,
well,
but
that's-
at this point,
It's too early to make
Yes.
any projections. Yeah.
Okay?
But less would be better.
right, of course.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's what I thought last time. Remember, I said, oh, we only have 8, and it ended up being 14.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Don't be saying that anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we're now to 5. There is no public to have any comments.
Nope.
So we have some new business for a request for an individual to be appointed to the Prevention of Demolition by Neglect Committee. So do you still, Christina, do you still want to be put on that committee?
Yes, as long as I'm on HPC.
Okay, all right. So do we need to have a motion to have her added to the committee?
I move that we add her to the committee.
You
I
move.
second.
Do we have a second?
You got it.
Second, there's the
Thank
second.
you.
All of those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, you are now part of the committee.
Thank you, thank you.
So we got that taken care
That
of.
was
You did
fast.
do a good job.
And Matt, tell her when the next meeting is.
We meet next Tuesday at 12:15 at
Do we have
Matt's
a-
office.
Nope, at Matt's office, no problem, I'll be there.
Right.
See, you have looked
With
at
her
plans.
desk.
Okay.
Do we have
So
a change
now we've
committee
got the
meeting?
administrator's report. He's got a report A on COAs that have been issued. He's got here a list of the majors, a list of the minors that have gone on. Any questions anyone wants to ask about that? Comments? No. Part B is COA extensions that have been issued. And he gives some details about that. And they've got until October 16th of next year to take care of that. Okay, we talked about training, and those are what we looked at on the last training that we did. And it is my understanding that we have met requirements already for what we had to turn in to them to
That's correct.
keep whatever it is we're getting.
That's correct.
Is that right?
Christian came up with something real quick at the very end.
Okay, all right. So this is wonderful news about the King Solomon Lodge. They got the grant. The alderman approved it, the city manager signed it, and now the state has to get the signatures, and then they get the money?
Not exactly, but the contract is between the state and the city. We have to put together what's called an RFQ and we work with the state in order to do that, to hire a consultant. So it's a process, basically like a request for bids, but it's a request for qualifications in the case of professional services. So that's a process that goes like bids. And then after that, then the consultant starts their work, and when after they have done some amount of work, they send in a bill, and then the bill it is passed through us to the state, and then the state pays their portion of it because there's a match involved.
Okay.
So it's quite likely that and I'm not sure of this detail or not, but it seems like this is the way it's happened before, is that the partnership, the King Solomon Lodge and Newburn Foundation partnership actually pay the bill because the person isn't going to wait 2 or 3 months to get their bill paid. And then the reimbursements filter back to the partnership.
Okay.
But that's one scenario. It could be quite worse, in that the consultant doesn't get paid for 2 or 3 months.
Right.
So,
Okay.
So anyway, so that's when, and the money comes through in kind of trickles and bits and stuff like that. So
Okay.
it isn't just a lump sum grant.
Right, all right. Item 2 under that is the resiliency plan, the report on the 3rd meeting for the plan. Do we have a report?
The resiliency plan is being done by a team of planners and historic preservation consultants. And basically at this point, they've gotten past the initial data gathering portion, and they're starting some analysis. And so mostly it's just, and they've also had the public town hall meeting that they did in a combination of ways. They did an in-person here in the city hall. They did an in-person in our conference room, all simultaneously in our conference room, and then also virtually online. That was probably almost a month ago. I think it was a few nights after this meeting last month. And so they did that to get public input on some ideas and some, primarily to present it to the public, the concept and the process and the procedures, the ideas, the concerns, the issues about flooding primarily in the city. So, and then secondly, they also conducted a survey, which was done both online, and there were some hard copy ones that were sent around, but I haven't been involved with the data gathering on that. The historic preservation consultant is involved with, of course, our the local historic district area, but also, which includes downtown. And so she has quite a bit of experience and concern for working with the downtown area, but also other historic areas in the city, not just at the local districts. So beyond that, it isn't part of the report on the meeting for the plan, but as part of her work, she has, an associate who has requested some information about one of the homes that's been raised down on East Front Street. So I have yet to get that back to her, and I believe the next meeting is probably tomorrow. So I better get that to her ASAP.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. So I think they were wondering what the plans were, what plans were submitted and that kind of thing.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other comments by anybody on the commission at this point in time?
Can we schedule a meeting of the change committee so that we have a process when we have that other discussion?
Oh, for the updates?
Or do we have one scheduled?
I thought y'all had one.
They're usually.
We have a standing meeting that I am unable to share at the moment.
Yeah, first Tuesday of every month, I believe.
First Tuesday of the month.
So that usually happens before the first Wednesday, and that will happen again this month too.
And usually it's at
So it'll be
4 o'clock-ish,
Mm-hmm.
give or take.
So the updates committee will have an opportunity to discuss the fencing issue before the design review meeting.
So it's Tuesday the 3rd?
Yes.
Okay.
Election day.
Oh, yeah.
Matt, not that it's our purview, but I'm curious if the residential overlay district is long enough ago, along the waterfront, that our whole measured floor height has completely changed. And the zoning people may not be quite as drilled down on that as we are. with?
Let's see, I believe we looked at that, and it was not that long ago. But I don't remember exactly. There were too many different overlays that I was looking at the time when we were checking the dates on those. But maybe more relevant to the point is that the floodplain maps have changed just in the past few months.
Right.
Now, that said, however, this particular area, the base flood elevation, I don't think has changed. On the other hand, it's not, there is one corner of the development where it has changed dramatically. So I think 3 lots, they're probably numbered 1, 2, and 3 in the upper right-hand corner. They are now a base elevation that's probably 4 feet higher than it was before.
That has nothing to do with anything except that I'm curious.
Plus, those 3 lots are not only 4 feet higher, but they are required to be built on pilings, just like down at the beach.
Oh, wow.
So, there may be some other, it's just a tiny corner of the development, and just small pieces of each of the lots, but because the buildings will fill out those lots, as we've seen, it's quite likely that that flood area the buildings will touch or encroach even in a foot or 2 in, means the entire house has to comply. So there may be a way for the applicants or the owners of the property to either get an engineering study that shows that, the line is slightly different, or do some changes to the land that may change things, or something else. So there may be some options that are there for the property owners in order to alleviate that particular issue, because that's obviously a significant change over the others, and would of course be totally different character than all the rest of the buildings in that development, in our historic district, for that matter. So.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. Thank you for that information. Okay.
One other thing, the new committee we formed, Ellen, what's the name of our committee?
Historic Properties Outreach, more or less. But we're open to ideas because we're all stumped.
When is our next meeting, and have we made contact with the other people we're trying to invite to this board?
Yes, so we have not set a meeting yet, and partly we have to contact all people in order to establish that. So.
And do we know how, is Ethel at the hospital?
Yes, Miss Ethel Sampson is home.
Yeah.
She's doing, I got a report on her last night, she's doing really well. Mr. Sampson is finally requesting food, so both of them are doing better than what they have been doing. This was last night at our rec meeting. The word was passed, but Miss Ethel is perfect. I mean, she doesn't look like anything was wrong. I have physically seen a picture of her. I have not been able to talk to her yet, but that is my goal by the end of the week, is to call and talk to her.
I've never met her, but it seems like that would be.
You've never met her?
Never. I only talked to her on the phone, but she sounds like she's so full of energy that it's not surprising that
she runs circles around everybody in this room. And she's 80, I guarantee she every bit 86 years old.
Yeah, right.
She don't play.
Okay, well, thank you for doing that and making contact with her. So I'd like to thank all members of the commission for us all working together to come up with a solution to our little project up there on East Front Street, and everybody having some input into that and coming up with something that could help us work with also what the builders were trying to do. And if there are no other comments, I will call this meeting to an end and we can be adjourned.
One other comment. Were you referring to the Shriners building on East Front Street?
To the what?
Now, my understanding is that they're going to have a meeting in early November to determine what to do with that building. Shriners building. whether they're going to take it down, they were thinking of something smaller, or, so they're going to make a decision, and I would like to think they'd come to us with that.
Well, I guess they're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Before they can do anything.
Depends on what they want to do.
Who would you contact for that?
You know, painting is just maintenance.
Right.
Say what?
Painting is maintenance, right? Or replacement in kind.
They were
So
saying,
Matt, perhaps you can get us some information on when they're going to do that, and
Oh, I don't,
What I hear, they're not gonna, their building is coming down.
I have no contact with them.
That's what,
I think the guy's out of Greenville. No, Pew was
I
out of
think
Greenville.
they've got a,
There's a local, you know who you can call? It's called Craven County Shrine Club over on Glen Burnie,
yeah.
on South Glen Burnie.
yes,
Yeah, They would
yes.
know.
Somebody over there should be able to put you in touch with who's in charge.
That's over there by Hobby Lobby and all that shopping.
But why do you think they would tell me anything?
Well, maybe you
Because
should
they're in the
inform them that they
historic
can't do
district.
anything,
They can't
i.e.
do
tear the
anything
building
without
I
down.
mean, they might tell me something.
Yeah.
But they might not.
Just
My
tell-
neighbor
Because maybe
said-
they don't know anything, because obviously it's not a decision that they necessarily make
I
here.
The
think-
membership is gonna make.
Yeah.
I mean, my understanding is, you know, it's been quietly on the market and so on and so forth.
Yeah, before the hurricane, see, you know, they actually tried to sell it to the county, so it would be the,
Part of the county.
no, they wanted it to be the convention center before they built the convention center.
Oh,
Oh, my.
Because they wouldn't really use it, they only use the building twice a year.
oh, thanks.
So, and they, you know, yes, it has been quietly on the market per se, but it's really not on the market. But if somebody made them offer there, I guarantee you they'll sell it.
Maybe you need to call them since you're
Ah,
on.
no, sir, no ma'am, I have to stay out of that.
Okay, well, we're going to let you call it, and
Well,
if there's nothing else, I'm going to adjourn us, and we
Okay.
can be adjourned, official.